Welcome to the Crimson Titan Podcast. My name is Lance Parker. I am the marketing manager for Crimson Titan Studios. I'm also one of their writers, and I am here with a guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Adams, comic book writer, animation writer, television writer, the whole bit.
Awesome. I have been looking forward to this episode for a long time.
Awesome.
I mean, we talked about doing this like 2 months ago. I was just like, hey, I met this guy at Salt Lake FanX. His name's Jeremy Adams. He's working on Green Lantern. He's worked on Flash, and he worked with Dr. Fate, which is my favorite character, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, I want to reach out to him and actually get him on, because that was just a very stimulating conversation for me. And here we are.
Cool.
So,
that's great. Yeah. I think we were talking about, Dr. Fate's rad. I like that character. I got the original art from that Flash issue where Dr. Fate crosses over from Fernando Passer, and it's the best. It really is the best.
That's awesome. I do want to talk about like how that story went on a little bit more later on. But we'll start out with how did you get started? How did you get a career in writing?
Well, gosh, that's a really good question. I, like most precocious kids, I loved comics growing up. My dad had drawn a couple comics when I was a kid, and when my parents were divorced, I think that was always something that I always felt like a connection point for my dad and I, because I didn't see him all that particularly much. So I grew up with genre and fantasy, but then there's that age where you get into I started reading Dragonlance Chronicles and Stephen King books, and I remember writing a short story for my class, and everybody just laughing hysterically. I was like, "Oh wow, this is great!" And I had English teachers that really said, "Oh, you're really good at this." Never really thought about it. Wanted to go into film, and I, there's no real concrete way. How do you become a professional writer? So I moved out to Los Angeles, and man, I just struggled for like 10 years trying to figure out what to do. Writing spec scripts and working at Blockbuster and bookstores and being a tour guide and all this stuff. And then one day I started going to this Doctor Who night with some friends of mine, and I met this guy named Jim Krieg. And Jim, he said, "Oh, I'm a writer." And I'm like, "Sure you are," because back, everybody's a writer in LA, whatever. Yeah. And didn't think much of it. He wanted to read something of mine, and he read it, and he said, "Oh, this is garbage, but like the good type of garbage." I was like, I don't know what that means, And then, this is the religious part of the story, but I was going to a church out here, and they were giving a sermon on Moses on the burning bush. And I had been out here for a decade, and I was like, man, I need a burning bush. I need like a bush to tell me, to say, this is what you need to do. And my wife said, "Well, you should pray about it." Like, I prayed about it, get out of here, But I did. I actually prayed about it that night. And the next day, Jim calls me and he says, "I know this is weird, but I was praying last night, and I feel like God wants me to be your mentor. And I want to put you on the show, but I need you to do this, this, and this." And he gave me these tasks to do. And I did the tasks. And I found out later that he just added those tasks in because he wanted to see if I'd actually do it, if I was serious about it. And so I did those tasks, and he gave me my first credit on Green Lantern, the animated series. And then I did that, and then they gave me another one. And then from there, nothing for a while. I worked as an assistant at a toy company, and I kept telling them "Oh, you should make these toys into this." And they're like, "Who are you?" And then they found out I had done Green Lantern, the animated series. They're like, "Oh, why don't you write on our show?" I'm like, "You have a show?" And so they put me on the show, and it was fits and starts for about 4 years from the time I got my first credit. And I was a stay-at-home dad, taking care of my newborn baby, and just trying to eke out a side career, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Jim got another job at Warner Brothers, and he called me in to come in on a show called Justice League Action. And from there, things started getting a little more consistent. I had done like 4 episodes of that, and then I got introduced to Lego, and I've had a very long career with Lego, and I love those guys to death. And we've done everything from original IP to Jurassic Park to a remake of, all sorts of crazy stuff that we've done, which has been, they've sent me to China. They've sent me all over, and it's been really great. And from there, it just spirals. And so, I always say to people, I try to control the controllables. And what I knew was I could be really great to work with, really collaborative and very nice. And also I could be, I was fast. I was a really fast writer. So
Mm-hmm.
everything's going to get turned in on time. Whether or not it was good or not, I don't know, because I've had people hire me and go, I love the way you write action. I hate the way you write dialogue. And then the next day somebody will hire me and goes, I hate the way you write action. I love the way you write dialogue. And so there's this weird subjectiveness to it. I just knew that I could be nice and I could be on time and I could come up with a ton of ideas. And that ended up getting me a ton of jobs.
That's really, really cool. So it's kind of like a find your audience kind of thing. Like,
yeah, and double down on your strengths. Jim used to say to me, he's like, you're not going to be this guy, but what you are is, you write fast and you write this, and you should double down on that. And that's really helped, like finding where your strengths are and double down on it. Double down on your strength, because you'll be the only guy that can do what you can do.
Yeah. So you started out in TV and just shows like that?
Animation, yeah, mostly animation, Justice League Action, DC Superhero Girls, and then I started doing, a bunch of Scooby-Doo stuff, and the Scooby-Doo stuff led to me pitching this Scooby Natural idea, the Scooby-Doo Supernatural crossover, and Jim and I contacted my buddy Andrew, who became the showrunner on season 13, and said, hey, would you guys do an episode of Scooby-Doo Supernatural? And they were like, oh my gosh, yeah. And we had to write it a year in advance. And it became this really big thing. They showed it at the Paley Fest. We went up to Vancouver for the live action parts. You can see us over Jensen's shoulder when he says Scooby-Dooby-Doo, and it was such a big deal that Andrew came to me and said, we'd love to hire you on the show. And we just want you to come up with weird ideas. And I'm like, okay, great. And I pitched, I remember pitching 10 weird ideas, and they were like, these are too weird. They were like, no, these are too crazy. So they ended up doing something I ended up doing a couple episodes on the last season that were fun, but they were definitely not as crazy as the stuff I pitched. But it was an incredible opportunity. And around that time during Supernatural, right before COVID, actually, I got a call from DC Comics saying that I was on this list. I guess DC had called the animation department at Warner Brothers and said, you guys do such a great job with our characters. We'd love to get a list of your writers. And so I ended up going to this meeting with a bunch of other animation writers, and they were basically saying we were going to take over and write all these comics. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's a miracle. This is amazing.
It's really, really cool. So
yeah, it's my dream,
How did you make that transition, right? Jumping from TV to comics, how is that transition?
From animation to comics, it's not particularly hard, at least for me, because animation, you are writing for an artist, you are writing for a storyboard artist or whatnot. And with comic books, you're writing for an artist in a much more intimate, collaborative form. But it wasn't that different because of the description and how to that sort of. There's different format things, but it's not terribly different. And I do both, finding the way that I wanted to do comics and reading. They gave us a Jeff Johns script that we kind of poured over, and the transition wasn't that hard. I mean, I still do both. So I try to keep those tools sharp, but it is different. It's a different form. I find comics books to be incredibly satisfying because there are less people involved. So you can have more of a kind of a pure creative vision, I guess. But because it's still a big IP, at least with, whether it's Flash Gordon or whether it's DC characters, you still have people that have a say in how those characters are written. Which can be difficult, but the pros outweigh the cons by 1,000,000,000 to 1. I mean, it's what I've wanted to do since I was a little kid. I love comic books. I never thought I could be able to write comic books. So I've always kind of pursued comics, even when I was doing film and TV, but I just didn't know how. I'd pitch on a couple things here and there, but never got me anywhere. So my name was on a list, and eventually they let me do a couple backup issues, and then suddenly they called me and said, hey, do you have any ideas for the Flash? And I'm like, man, I'm a nerd of a certain age. I have ideas for everything, So they just handed it on the phone. He's like, okay, you're taking over the Flash. I was like, are you kidding me?
That's awesome.
So I took over the Flash, and the hurdle that I had for the Flash was that everybody was like, they've beaten up Wally so badly. They were just like, they just thought for sure I was going to do something horrible. And I would go on a podcast and stuff like, no, man, as long as I'm writing this, Wally's going to be okay. I promise. And started pushing the book into this kind of like Fantastic Four vibe that was more adventurous, but also anybody could read it. There was nothing, there was never going to be anything in it that was going to get you, like if you're a little kid, you're not going to get in trouble, but it was going to be really fun and all over the place, and try to pull in different characters and really have a family element. And it was very much my life at that time too. I have this really dynamic wife. I have 2 kids, so, and a weird job, it all made sense.
Yeah, definitely. Is that the Eclipsed volume that you're talking about there?
What Eclipsed was part of that run. That was the second, I think, trade. And Eclipsed was the Dr. Fate. I remember thinking that they had basically told me I'd be lucky if I got to write 12 issues of this comic. And I was like, okay, then I've got a bunch of stuff I want to get off my checklist.
Yeah.
And one of them was kind of an interactive idea. Originally in my head, I'd been thinking about it for years. I was like, oh, you'd have to do it with magic, like maybe Doctor Strange or something.
Yeah.
So then I was in the DC universe, and they said I could use Dr. Fate. I was like, oh my gosh, great. We're going to do this interactive book where you have to flip it upside down and blow on it and find glyphs and all this stuff. And it was a chore to get editorial to, like, I had to like print it out and like videotape myself doing it so they could see how you have to print it in order for it to work,
Yeah. That must have been honestly a nightmare logistically.
Oh, I mean, for me it was fine, but somebody broke their computer online. They said they tried to flip their computer upside down, and for whatever reason, I kept telling DC to say at the beginning, like, lock your screen or do something so they could have a better reading experience if they were doing it digitally, and they did not do that. But it was a trip. It was a fun issue.
That's really, really cool. Really, really cool. So, next thing, how do you feel about writing for characters with such history?
It's a challenge sometimes. I mean, luckily, because I've been a nerd my entire life, I have a leg up. So I definitely have a lot of just prior knowledge, whether it's comic books or television or whatnot. But I do really like to get in the weeds with continuity quite a bit. And I tend to dig into open holes in continuity and see, is there story I can tell here that will A, fix the hole, because like I said, I'm a nerd and I need things to make sense, or B, bring some character back or do something that will finish a story. Like when I took over Green Lantern, Jeff Thorne's run was this real sprawling space epic, but it ended with all these loose ends that were fantastic for me to pick up and use, because editorial really told me, you should just write a paragraph that everything went back to normal and it's fine. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, I'm a nerd. I have to explain why things, what happened.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was such a pleasant gift to get those dangling threads, because it really directed where Green Lantern was going to come. So any character that I write, I do like to delve into the history quite a bit. And that happened even when I was writing animation. Like Mortal Kombat was so mythologically heavy that I had to really do a lot of research in that. And there's this guy, Dominic Cianciolo at NetherRealm, and he would correct me on things and I still wouldn't get it right. But luckily it's so collaborative, comic books, film, animation, whatever. It's so collaborative. You have people that can kind of help you along if you screw up somehow,
Yeah. It's good to have people that keep you in check.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So let's talk about that Green Lantern run that you're working on currently. How's that going for you?
It's great. It's fun because, like I said, that was my first credit on television. So getting to write kind of starting it very much on Earth and then moving it after the first year into space and doing this kind of sprawling space thing, but also bringing in characters from the animated series was really fun, because I was like, well, if I don't do it, I don't know if anybody's going to do it, and And it's great. It's been really fun to get to know these characters like Hal and whatnot. I think as we move into March, Kyle's going to take much more of a front row seat into the book, which will be fun for a lot of Kyle fans. There are lots of Kyle fans. And
there are a ton, and they always feel shorted.
Yeah. So Kyle's going to have a much bigger role to play, and Hal will still be there doing some stuff. But those are going to be the two main characters I deal with. But it's great. I'm having a ball.
That's really good to hear. I'm excited for it. I started collecting it before I met you, and then I came back and I was like, holy crap, I just met this guy.
Yeah.
It was just really, really cool.
That's cool.
I'm a few issues behind, but yeah.
Okay, I won't spoil anything.
Yeah. Awesome. I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Love what you're doing with Jon Stewart and Jessica Cruz.
Oh yeah, it's really fun stuff, and it's great because Morgan Hampton and I have been we're co-writing Green Lantern Corps, and then he just took over for issue 10, and so again, there's a lot of dangling threads that he gets to play with over there, which is great.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. One of the better stories I've read this year.
Oh, cool! Thank you.
They are all like DC's doing good work these
last couple years. It's really fun. Even as a fan, I'm like, this is great.
Yeah. It feels like a freaking renaissance.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
It just feels different. It's good. So, you were saying something about a Knightfall show. We should talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So Knightfall is in the 90s, they did a huge sweeping Batman epic called Knightfall, and it was followed by Night Quest and Night's End, and just tons of books. And so years ago, they asked me to adapt them, and I wrote the first one, and I wrote the outline for the second one. But at that time, there was such a shakeup at Warner Brothers and AT&T that I thought for sure this thing would never see the light of day. But I've done probably like 14 movies with the producer on it, Rick Morales. And for people that don't know, in animation, that type of producer is really what you would think of like a movie director. He's picking music, he's picking designs, he's doing all of it. And so we worked together, and he really he had a very particular vision for what Knightfall needed to be. And so condensing all of Knightfall into an 85-minute movie was definitely a challenge, but I've seen it. It's great. It's terrifying. It's dark. The characters look like they do from the comics, the 90s really comics. Cool. We folded in the origin of Bane, and Tim Drake's awesome, and Azrael's awesome. It's really good. It's really, really good. I'm very excited about it. So that'll come out sometime in 2026. Awesome.
And when did you announce that?
They announced it in New York Comic Con this year. So
awesome.
A month ago, nice. I was down signing autographs, and suddenly my phone started blowing up. I was like, oh man, I wish people would have told me so I could get prepped and be able to talk about it better,
Awesome. So, this is a more question for me, like keeping things under wraps.
Yeah.
Is that a difficult thing for you? Cause you
100%, because I'm terrible. I like to talk about this stuff. If you catch me at a convention, I'll probably spoil something. It's hard because I get so excited about it.
Yeah.
But also now, like, animation's harder, I feel like, because you've got a 2-year window. You turn in a script and it's 2 years later, maybe you'll see the finished product. With comic books, it's less of a window. So if you do something, maybe it'll be a couple months later, it'll come out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard because I get so excited. Among our peers, we're all just nerds. We talk, we spill the beans on everything all the time.
Yeah.
Which also gets me in trouble because I'll say something and somebody will get mad about what I'm doing and go tell somebody, and I'm like, ooh, oh well, they'll try to stop me, but you can't stop me. No.
Fun stuff. Well, let's see what's next for you.
What's next? So right now I'm doing Aquaman and Green Lantern. Aquaman is tying in with the DCKO event by Josh Williamson and Scott Snyder, which is really, really fun.
Yeah.
I have a couple of tie-ins that are also one-shot tie-ins that are coming out that have been announced. One is called The Kids Are All Fight, which is a really, and it's fun, but also there's a character that's going to appear in there that'll be the first time that person has returned to DC continuity in a long time. And I think people are going to be shocked about who that is. Yeah, that's going to be cool. And then the other one is I created this character in the Flash, Omega Bandman, who is this intergalactic space wrestler. And I kept pitching him and saying, can you give me like a 12-issue miniseries or a 6-issue? And they're like, no. They're like, but you can use them in a Green Lantern annual. It's like, oh, all right then. So it's this crazy wrestling thing with Kyle Rayner that's coming out, which I'm excited about.
That's really cool.
Between those two, Aquaman and Green Lantern, and these one shots, and we might have some other really fun stuff coming the next year in comic book land. But Knightfall is coming out, and I worked on a show called Lego Dreams for the 3rd season. That's out, and I just keep cruising along, writing whatever they'll throw me.
That's really, really cool.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's really all the questions I had.
Great. Anything else you want to know?
I mean, personally, yes, but yeah.
Well, I'm ridiculously available. If people go to Substack, they have questions to my Substack, they can ask them there, or Instagram, asking questions. I'm pretty accessible that way. Everything else I've kind of like stepped away from for a bit, which has been great for my anxiety. So
yeah, definitely. Social media it's a necessary evil for this.
Correct. Yeah. Emphasis on evil sometimes,
yeah, most definitely. Okay. Well, that's
so
all
much,
we got
man.
for this episode.
All right.
So, thank you, Jeremy.
Crimson's Titan podcast. Listen to it.